How many engineers do I have here? Good. You know you cannot escape the second law of thermodynamics, right? You should tell the economists that. They don't study thermodynamics. So that's why I don't know anything about economics. We'll get to that in a minute. But the point is, this is not a metaphor. We have too much spent entropy. That CO2 is spent energy. It's up in the atmosphere. And really, the long and short of it is we can't get enough of the sun's heat back off the earth. How bad is it? It's actually right now terrifying. The first study, I did a book, some of you old timers may remember, called Entropy in 1980, first studies on global warming. I continue to underestimate the speed of the feedback loops, and so did everyone else I know. Because we can't model those feedback loops. When we see them after the fact, we say, how do we miss that one? So, the most important single story in the history of the human race was reported 2 weeks ago. Almost no attention, not a single world leader made a single comment on it. And in Hawaii at the monitoring station 2 weeks ago, it was reported that we've now hit 400 parts carbon per million, not a peep from the world. We're dead asleep on this. The parts carbon per million never went over 280 parts carbon per million in the atmosphere for the last 800,000 years. It tracks identically. As soon as the industrial age starts, the carbon goes up. We've now hit 400 parts carbon per million. Now, the reason this is important, I advise the EU. We went to Copenhagen, and we hope to talk the world into mitigating CO2 at 450 parts per million, stop there, and we'd only go up 2 degrees. And then James Hansen, who just retired as the chief climatologist for the U.S. government, said, we got our numbers wrong. By the way, no one even wanted to play with the EU. He said, that's too much. Hansen said we had our numbers wrong. If you go up 450 parts carbon per million, the geological record shows us you go up 6 degrees, not 3. And Hansen said, as a paraphrase, the end of human civilization, perhaps by the end of the century. What's terrifying about climate change that's never explained is it radically changes the water cycle on Earth in one moment of time. That's what this is all about. We're the watery planet. You know, we go with other planets, we say, is there water? First thing we want to know. This planet, the ecosystems have developed over eons of history based on somewhat stable water regimes. They shift, but somewhat stable. For every 1 degree that the atmosphere temperature goes up, the atmosphere then absorbs 7% more precipitation from the ground. It sucks it up because of the heat. It throws off the whole hydrological cycle of the Earth in one moment of time. So what we're seeing now is more bitter winter snows. And I'm always amused when the political people say, see, it's global warming. No, it's global, not global warming. It's cold out there. The reason we're having more bitter winter snows is because of the radical shift in the water cycle, which means we're getting more extreme events. We're getting more dramatic spring floods. We're getting more prolonged summer droughts everywhere. We're getting more Category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes. We're getting more extreme volcanic activity everywhere. And this is just 2013. Our ecosystems cannot catch up to this change in the water cycle, and they are destabilizing everywhere. So all of our scientific models now show we are actually in real time the 6th extinction event of life on Earth right now. We have had 5 extinction events in 450 million years. When it happens, the tipping point comes and the chemistry shifts in the planet and we get wiped out pretty quick. On the average, it takes around 10 million years to recover that biodiversity loss. We're in the 6th extinction event on the models, and the models show on the up end, and these models were done before the new readings of 400 parts per carbon per million, that we could lose upwards of 70% of all the life on Earth by the end of the century. As my wife says, we're just not grasping the enormity of the moment. You're grasping it. You're out there with solar. But in our country, the energy industry has talked half the country into believing climate change is a hoax. And then the scientific reports last week, they looked at every climate change scientific paper that's ever been done, and 98% of the the scientists agree and 2% don't, and it didn't get any attention. This is mass denial. We are the youngest species in the planet. We're the babies. We've been here about 175,000 years, anatomically modern humans, and we are such hubris. You know, the odds aren't too good. 99.5% of all the species that have ever inhabited this little oasis in the universe have actually come and gone. This century is a moment of decision whether our species stays here. My European director has a baby that's 1 year old. I just can't imagine what it's like for that baby in the year 2100. I can't imagine.